guys? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Big one today. Something that I never thought would happen. Bray Wyatt released from WWE. Yes, that happened on Saturday, July the 31st. They let him out of his contract. The question is, why did that happen? Where is he going? How do people feel about it? We'll talk about that today in this video. I want to remind you guys though, if you're new to my channel, or if you've never seen one of my videos before, or you've never looked in the description box down below, there's a lot of free goodies down in the description box. 30-day free trial of Amazon, free trial of Audible, free cryptocurrencies, free stocks, all kinds of good stuff. Check out some of those affiliate links and get yourself some free stuff. Thank you very much. It helps out the channel, so I appreciate it. So what is going on with this Bray Wyatt thing? So it was released that, John Laurinaitis, Talent Relations, gave a future endeavor to Bray Wyatt, and we wish the best for him and people power. Yes, Bray Wyatt got future endeavor. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you made a list of guys and girls that I did not think would be ever released from WWE or would leave WWE that I would figure would be lifers on the current roster, Bray Wyatt is on that list, along with people like Charlotte Flair and Randy Orton and Roman Reigns and John Cena. Never thought those people. Seth Rollins, another one. These are the core WWE people right now, and I did not think that they'd be releasing Bray Wyatt. It was only a few years ago on the Stone Cold podcast where Bray Wyatt was one of very few wrestlers of the current generation that Vince McMahon himself gave praise to, which he usually doesn't. So it is a shock to a lot of people that Bray got released. However, he hasn't been on TV since a little bit after WrestleMania this year, and there's a little bit more to it than it meets the eye. When the news came out, many wrestlers tweeted things, and as soon as I saw it, I had this thought, and then I saw Mickie James's tweet about it, and yeah, it completely was exactly what I thought. She pointed out that, yeah, he's been future endeavored, he came up with this character, and then they basically gave it to somebody else, make all the money from it, they own it, and you're kind of out of luck. See, unlike actors in Hollywood or certain other things, WWE wrestlers, that's why this independent contractor thing is so ridiculous. Bray Wyatt intellectually created the Fiend. You know, but everybody knows the story, who's paid attention to his character and where he came up with it and how he had built it up over time. There were hints of it in prior stuff he did in one of the prior incarnations of Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, and of course, coming in with the Wyatt family back in 2014, 2013 in WWE. Completely different characters, something that did spark my attention when I first saw them, because I was kind of casually watching WWE at the time, and I was like, oh, those guys are pretty cool. And it was like, all right, we'll see something different. Bray Wyatt's original character, co-created by Dusty Rhodes, of course. Many people know that from his Bray Wyatt's NXT days. The character was kind of an updated version of the old Waylon Mercy character, which, irony of ironies, Dan Spivey played that character, and Dan Spivey was also a replacement on the US Express for Barry Windham, who also is the uncle of Bray Wyatt. So it's weird that we can tie anything together in the world of pro wrestling. But no, on a serious point though, it is kind of effed up that he spent all that time on that character of creating the Fiend, and how the Fiend was kind of extrapolated from previous incarnations of the Bray Wyatt character, and it was the hottest thing in WWE about 2 years ago. Everybody was raving about it until they kind of killed it with the Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins. That's a whole other story. But if I was Bray Wyatt, I would be pissed right now, because they gave his character essentially to Alexa Bliss, and now they've released him. So all that work he did to put into that character that Alexa Bliss now took, it's, yeah, that he has no legal rights to it, I wouldn't think. So, yeah. Although I wouldn't worry too much about Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's a creative person, and the one thing you know about creative people is if you give them less to work with or you take something big away from them, they can come up with a better version of what they originally had anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen with Bray Wyatt in the future. Now, we don't know if he's injured, if there's some sort of physical reason for this. Nick Khan seems to be the current president or whatever of WWE. He seems to be kind of spearheading a lot of these cuts. Bray Wyatt, much like Braun Strowman, had a very big contract. The WWE, despite reporting some increases in a lot of their revenue in the last quarter two earnings report, somehow still need to make some money. So So they have released him to save on the budget and keep them in the black instead of having them dip into the red. I find that a little hard to believe too, because the Fiend mask, and a lot of the Wyatt merchandise, they were pretty big sellers for WWE. Of course, the one thing that everybody wants to know, is he going to AEW? I think this one, if Bray Wyatt doesn't have something against those guys over there, which he doesn't, from all accounts, from anything anybody has seen, and if he doesn't have some sort of physical ailment, again, it wasn't said that he had a physical ailment, it was a cost-cutting thing, and his relationship with Vince McMahon, apparently, reportedly, rumored, was hot and cold, on and off over the years. If that's the case, and if he is available, you know that AEW wants to scoop him up. And of course, a 90-day compete clause would mean that he'd be available to be on AEW television just in time for the November pay-per-view Full Gear. If AEW can get Brian Danielson, CM Punk, and Bray Wyatt, and Malachi Black, by the way, all within a 6-month period, yeah, that's pretty good. We're going to talk more about AEW in another video that I have that you guys can check out by hitting the icon on the top right side of this video if you're on YouTube. But that is an intriguing thought of Bray Wyatt going into AEW, not just because of the number of other dark characters they have there. Obviously, you want to see him interact with Darby Allin. You'd want to see him interact with Malachi Black, which I don't think the two of them, even though they both were in WWE's main roster, they really ever had any kind of interaction with each other. You'd want to see him interact with Sting. You want to see him interact with Abaddon, who I always said she would have been great if she had been in WWE as the real Sister Abigail. Well, Bray Wyatt and Abaddon in the same company, that could be very interesting, even though she's still kind of working her way up the ladder. And of course, I think what a lot of fans are thinking about, because John Huber, formerly known as Luke Harper, who was a part of the Wyatt family, and the two of them, for all accounts, seem to have been good friends. He did pass away earlier this year, and he was the leader of the Dark Order. It would be interesting. I think it almost is way too, you just have to do it, that if Bray Wyatt does wind up being in AEW, he'd take over the Dark Order, which could be really cool. And I think fans would really want that if he went to the AEW. The question some people are going to ask too is like, what's up with WWE? Now, it's either they just don't care, the rumors are true that they're trying to set the company up to be sold, so they're not really worried about competition from AEW. It's not even on their radar, which is why I think a lot of people, myself included, have kind of said this AEW WWE thing is more kind of a pissing contest than an all-out war, whereas AEW doesn't really seem like they're dead set on trying to beat WWE. They take shots at WWE, obviously, because it's just an easy target. But the difference between, I've always said, between what Tony Khan is doing and what Eric Bischoff used to do, is Eric Bischoff wanted to put Vince McMahon out of business. Tony Khan is just trying to make, and probably along with everybody except Cody that's in management in AEW, they're just focused on just having this, really bringing the kind of wrestling that they've been doing for the last 10 years and giving it a mainstream platform to answer the question whether or not that style actually resonates with people or not. Can it draw an audience or it can't? So far, so good. But that may be the reason why WWE is letting guys like Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman go, because everybody naturally thinks they would be picked up by AEW, but Vince McMahon on the earnings call, the Q2 earnings call this past week, said that he doesn't consider AEW competition the way WCW was competition. Now, whether or not any of us really believe that, I'm not so sure. They say, again, WWE talks out of both sides of its mouth sometimes. While Vince says that on an earnings call, it's been very noticeable over the last week, and I haven't even watched the shows, but I can see from the scuttlebutt in the wrestling community that they are trashing NXT on WWE's main roster shows. Not only did the NXT call-ups, the NXT champion, get beat within 5 minutes in his first match on the main roster with the title belt on him after being undefeated this past Friday on SmackDown during a contract signing between Finn Balor and Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns said he would beat Balor back to NXT, which clearly says that NXT is no longer considered a third brand. It is beneath them, and that's, again, a lot of people suspect it's because they lost the Wednesday Night War against AEW Dynamite, and NXT is now the redheaded stepchild of WWE, and unfortunately someday it might wind up going the way of ECW and WWE's version of WCW, and a lot of other offshoots that they've had in the past. And I guess I have to take Vince at his word, because on the other side, if it was the Monday Night Wars, you wouldn't have seen the WWF giving up like, Mick Foley, letting him go, letting, The Undertaker go to WCW, like letting them go. The only person they let go over to WCW was Bret Hart, because they couldn't afford him, and he was the number one star, so he was the biggest money getter in the company, and that was allowed to happen. But I don't think that Vince would have let as many wrestlers of his own go over to the competition as is what's going on right now if this was the Monday Night War, or if he considered AEW again to be the threat that WCW was back in the day, which he clearly doesn't think so, or at least he's not going to let anybody know that he thinks that. As for Bray, whatever he winds up going by and whatever creative things happen in that crazy head of his, hopefully he has an avenue to do it if he continues to be in pro wrestling, if he's feeling healthy and he wants to get back and he winds up in All Elite Wrestling, which is probably the best place for him. Like, if a character like him, anything else but AEW is probably a waste, because he's very much on the theatrics, and I think the only other company besides WWE that could possibly provide him with something to be creative with and has the budget to do so would be AEW. Yeah, we're going to have to see what comes down the road. We're going to be very excited over the next 90 days to see what the news is about Bray Wyatt. Is he heading to AEW? Is he coming back to wrestling at all? Will WWE change its mind like it reportedly is doing with Braun Strowman right now, wanting to get him back? Only time will tell, but it is a crazy time to be a fan of pro wrestling. Anybody who said that, this will never happen, that'll never happen, I think we're at the point now with what's going on over the past couple of months to say nothing, truly, to steal a line from Vince McMahon, anything can happen, or paraphrase, anything can happen in the world of pro wrestling. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, I want to know what you guys think about Bray Wyatt's release from the WWE. Do you think it made any sense? Do you think he'll be going to AEW? Do you think this was one of the bigger mistakes that WWE has ever made in this current generation? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.